So I missed you last night. I didn't see it.
Good morning. The December 3rd, 2025 meeting of the Board of Estimates is now called to order. The board continues to meet in a hybrid format. For those here in person, please take a moment to silence your cell phones and other electronic devices. For those attending virtually, if you desire an opportunity to speak, we ask that you please keep yourself on mute until the chair recognizes you. When you're called upon, please announce your name and organization and speak loudly and clearly as you present. At this time, I would ask our clerk, Celeste Amato, for any corrections, additions, and noted abstentions for today's agenda.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning to everyone. This morning, we have one correction to a routine agenda item. SB 25-14275, Department of Transportation, extra work order number 1 with Santos Construction for TR 24003, concrete slab repair citywide under MBE WBE participation. Please delete the percentage and goal amounts and insert MBE 15.49% at $176,435.90. and WBE 29.49% at $335,864.91. We have one walk-on this morning, SB 25-14067 for the mayoralty. This is Amendment 4 to a Memorandum of Understanding with Cities for Financial Empowerment Fund. This transaction is a $0 transaction. We have the following deferrals to note this morning. SB 25-14337, BSIT MOU with the Housing Authority of Baltimore City. This item has been deferred at the request of the Council President until December 17th, 2025. SB 25-14285, Department of Finance, Emergency Procurement, Guidehouse Incorporated for $486,512. This item has been deferred at the request of the agency until December 17th, 2025. SB 25-14324, Department of Public Works, agreement with Atkins Realist USA Incorporated for $11 million. This item has been deferred at the request of the Comptroller until January 7th, 2026. SB 25-13629, Department of Public Works, partial release of retainage with Spinello Companies for $225,155. This item has been deferred at the request of the President until January 7th, 2026. And SB 25-14132, procurement, renewal, and increase with Homeland Security Group, doing business as Easter's Lock and Access Systems Incorporated for $3,410,937.62. This item has been deferred at the request of the President until January 7th, 2026. We have no withdrawals to note this morning, and we have no protests or statements of opposition or support received today. The following items are on the non-routine agenda this morning. Pardon me one moment. Again, the following items are on the non-routine agenda this morning. SB 25-14334, audits, biennial performance audit of the Baltimore City Fire Department for fiscal years 2024 and 2023. SB 25-14276, general services, extra work order 2 for the BCPD headquarters garage emergency repairs, Restoration East LLC for $3,214,511.51. SB 25-13957, Housing and Community Development, report for approved emergency procurement application for KCI Technologies Incorporated. SB 25-14310, Human Resources Administrative Manual revisions for AM 230-5, PM 101-2, downgrading procedure. SB 25-14308, Human Resources Administration Manual revisions, AM 230-3, AM 201-3-1, creation and abolishment of positions. SB 25-14299, Human Resources Administrative Manual revisions, 201-4, this is a new section, classification. SB 25-14303, Human Resources Administrative Manual revisions, AM 230-1, AM 201-3, position description. And SB 25-14305, Human Resources Administrative Manual revisions, AM 201-3-2, proposed reclassification. SB 25-14067 for the mayoralty, Amendment 4 to Memorandum of Understanding, Cities for Financial Empowerment Fund, Inc., and SB 25-13069, Transportation Increase Fixed and Portable School and Work Zone Speed Cameras, Project 1246, Automated Traffic Violation Enforcement System, ATVES, with American Traffic Solutions doing business as Vera Mobility for $16,682,130. We have the following abstentions to note this morning. The Honorable Mayor Brandon M. Scott is abstaining on SB 25-14003, Health Department Subrecipient Agreement with the Johns Hopkins University. The Honorable President Zeke Cohen is abstaining on SB 25-14339, Real Estate Amended and Restated Lease Agreement with Parking Lots at Harbor Hospital. The Honorable Comptroller Bill Henry is abstaining on all travel requests and travel reimbursements. City Solicitor Ebony Thompson has no abstentions to note this morning, and Director of Public Works Matthew Garbark has no abstentions to note this morning. We also have no votes on any routine agenda items this morning, Mr. President, and that concludes our opening statement. Thank you.
At this time, I ask for a motion to approve and adopt the opening statement as read by the clerk.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of approving, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The opening statement has been adopted. I now direct the board members' attention to the memorandum from my office dated December 3rd, 2025, identifying matters to be considered as routine agenda items together with any corrections, additions, abstentions, and no votes that have been noted by the clerk. I will entertain a motion to approve all the items on the routine agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of approving the items on the routine agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The routine agenda items have been approved. Seeing no further questions, we will now move to the non-routine agenda. The first item on the non-routine agenda is SB 25-14334 from the Department of Audits. This is a request to note the biennial performance audit of the Baltimore City Fire Department on behalf of the Audits Department. We have City Auditor Josh Pash. Mr. Pash, the floor is yours, sir.
Good morning, Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Comptroller, honorable members of the Board of Estimates. My name is Josh Pash, and I am here to present the biennial performance audit for the Department of Fire. Slide 2. I will go over the audit objectives and scope, identified risks that we looked at, our audit methodology, some background information, and then go through our findings, and then take any questions. Slide 3. Our audit objective was to evaluate the process of assigning take-home vehicles by the fire department to employees and the control structure around that program. We looked at fiscal years 24 and 23, and we did extend some testing into fiscal year 25. I'd like to thank the audit team and the fire department for all their help and work on this audit. Slide 4. The risks that we looked at were fraud risk, operational risk, and IT risk. Next slide. Audit methodology. So first we began with conducting interviews and walkthroughs to understand and evaluate the risks associated with assigning take-home vehicles and also the control structure around that program, and we have one finding regarding that. We also received and reviewed the number of responses to fire incidents in fiscal years 23, 24, and 25 to evaluate the risk of the need for take-home vehicles, and we have finding 3 related to that. Next slide. We also received and reviewed 13 take-home vehicle rosters for 23, 24, and 25. The reason there's 13 is for the changes and assignments during those years. We evaluated whether the fire department assigned take-home vehicles in accordance with MOP 415. We also confirmed that the vehicles were all assigned to active employees who work for the fire department by going through their workday. And we confirmed all vehicles that it should have been removed from separated employees or employees who no longer needed those vehicles, that they were properly removed. And we verified via Google Maps to ensure that all assigned take-home vehicles are within 60 miles of the nearest fire station and workstation. The policy says that the person should work in the Baltimore City or live within 60 miles. Slide 7. We also evaluated employee user access privileges in the unit management module and Operative IQ. Operative IQ is the IT system that maintains all information for fire-related assets and inventory, and that also includes the tracking of take-home vehicles. And we have a confidential finding related to that. And then for number 5, we received and reviewed fuel maintenance and repair costs to take-home vehicles in 23, 24, and 25, and we have finding 3 related to that. Slide 8. Okay, so criteria we used was based on the Manual of Procedure 415, which is the take-home vehicle policy for the fire department, and that was established and approved in July 16 of 2020. The policy states that officers and employees that reside in the city of Baltimore or within 60 miles of the closest fire station are eligible for a vehicle, and then those employees that have 24-hour-a-day, 7-day a week for emergency response obligations, and then also any officer holding the rank of deputy chief and above can be assigned a take-home vehicle. Slide 9. Some more background information. So the approval process. So a fire department manager or supervisor will request a take-home vehicle by sending an email to the chief of the fire department, requesting the chief's approval for the assignment of that take-home vehicle. The chief will review the request, and if the chief approves the take-home vehicle, they will respond and send notification to the fire apparatus unit who maintains the vehicles. And then the fire apparatus unit will either deliver that take-home vehicle to the employee's residence or to their assigned work location. And then the take-home vehicle information and the officer assigned are noted and recorded in the Operative IQ system. Slide 10. For the surrender process, notification is sent to the FAU by management that an employee's take-home vehicle needs to be surrendered. That can be a change in job duties, change in position, or no longer with the fire department. The FAU will pick up the vehicle at the officer's, or employee's residence or their work location, and then they complete an off-boarding checklist, which includes returning the car keys, the computer, anything else associated with the vehicle, and then that information is updated in Operative IQ. These above tasks are to be completed within 7 days once an employee is ineligible for a take-home vehicle. Slide 11. So to put things into context, the fuel maintenance and repair costs for 23 were about $134,000, for 24, $205,000, and 2025, $234,000, and that's for all of the take-home vehicles. Slide 12. Our first finding was that there are assigned take-home vehicles to non-fire department employees. We noted of the 38 take-home vehicles that were assigned, 2 were assigned to a deputy mayor and his staff who were not employed by the fire department. We did see that they did have fire-related work and responsibilities, but they currently were with the deputy mayor's office and still had the vehicles assigned to them. So the effect is assignment of take-home vehicles for non-fire employees can result in a shortage of available take-home vehicles, which can affect the effective operation of the fire department. We did note that during the audit period, when we identified these and presented to the fire department, they were removed from being assigned to a fire vehicle. Slide 13. So when we looked for the cause, we were informed that the mayor's office directed the fire department to assign the take-home vehicles to the deputy mayor and his staff member. Our recommendation was to the city administrator to evaluate the needs of the take-home vehicles for the deputy mayor and his staff, and then to assign the vehicle using the appropriate policy, Administrative Manual AM 5013, which is Mayor's Motor Vehicle Freeze Committee assigned vehicles, and as I mentioned, that was taken care of during our audit period, our audit. Next slide. Our second finding is a lack of formal documentation for approval of assignment of vehicles. So the fire department does not have a formal approval process for take-home vehicles. I did go over earlier what the approval process is. We see that management supervisor requests approval for the take-home vehicle by sending an email, but there is no designated repository to maintain the approval and that documentation. Therefore, when we did our testing, the fire department could not demonstrate that those vehicle assignments were formally approved by the fire chief, and this can affect accountability and transparency in the vehicle assignment and records. Slide 15. So when we looked at the cause, we noted that MOP 415 does define who has the approval authority, but it doesn't define the formal approval process. We recommend that the fire chief revise the MOP to include a formal approval process and also a document retention policy. And then I also want to note that during our audit in June of 2025, Fire Department did create a memo to formally document the approval of all the assigned vehicles at that time and retain that. Slide 16. Our third finding is that we found that there was fire take-home vehicles that were assigned to fire department officers and employees that did not have any emergency incident responses. So during our audit, we noted that all the vehicles were assigned according to the policy. And what we looked at for here was were they actually using the vehicle to respond to emergencies? So the policy says that the use of take-home vehicles is to facilitate the member's ability to respond to fire emergency calls and other fire department-related functions. We noted 6 officers and employees who had 0 emergency responses in 23, 24, and 25, and that they have a take-home vehicle. This was based on data provided by the fire department. 2 of the 6 officers, employees, commute less than 15 miles one way to their work location, and based on the data we were given, the conclusion was the assignment of the take-home vehicles was not warranted because from the past 3 years, there was 0 usage for emergency responses. Slide 17. So here are the six employees, and in the 4th column, we did note that there were non-emergency uses of those vehicles, but in the last 2 columns, based on the data received, that there was no emergency uses for the vehicles for these 6 people. We did not find any evidence that the vehicles were used for personal use. The fire department also informed us that there were fire emergencies that were not captured by the CAD system. For example, the oil spill in Harbor East. The CAD data was the data that was provided to audits and the data that was available. As a result, we cannot determine fully whether the vehicles were used for these emergency responses or other emergency responses. And the policy does say that the vehicles are to be used specifically for emergency responses. For number 3 and 4, 2 of the 6 take-home vehicles were assigned to fire department paramedics who were specifically and specially trained to work with the police department special weapons tactical team when need arises. These vehicles are used solely for police department operations, and the emergency events are started by the police department, and they are also tracked by the police department, yet the vehicles are assigned to the fire department, to fire department employees, and all the tracking happens with the police department and does not happen with the fire department. Slide 18. So the effect is that the fire department is responsible for fuel repair maintenance for these vehicles, and they have 0 fire emergency responses, and also the fire department is not tracking or really aware of how these vehicles are being used and the need for the vehicles because that is solely held by the police department. And then we noted that the repair and maintenance costs for the 6 take-home vehicles is approximately $115,000. And then when we looked at the cause, we noted that the fire department does not have a process to evaluate the use of take-home vehicles, which could be used to identify whether these vehicles are needed. Slide 19. So our recommendation corresponding to this is that the fire department evaluate the needs of those 6 take-home vehicles. Again, the CAD data, per what the fire department told us, was restricted and did not include all fire emergencies in it. So that restricts the ability to get a definitive measure of the uses for emergency uses, and that the recommendation is that the fire chief look into that, and then also to periodically reevaluate the need of these assigned take-home vehicles, and then to include that periodic evaluation in their policy. Next slide. We did have one confidential management comment. Per government auditing standards, Section 9.64, reporting confidential and sensitive information, that was omitted from the report. That was communicated to appropriate fire department and other city personnel so that they can address it, and that is due to a data security concern. and I will take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Auditor. Any questions for Mr. Pash? I have a few for the fire department when they come up, but just to start with, it does sound like they responded quickly on all of your findings and made corrections. Is that an accurate summation?
For, I would say, the quick hits, they did address those quickly, and then their managed responses did agree with all our findings and have action plans for all of those. Not all of them were implemented while we were doing the audit, but they do have a plan and time frame to implement their management action plans to address the findings.
Understood. All right. Thank you, Mr. Pash. On behalf of the fire department, we have Chief Wallace. Chief Wallace, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Council President, Mr. Comptroller, honorable members of the board. Chief Wallace, on behalf of the fire department, I want to start off by just acknowledging, especially Mr. Comptroller, the efforts of the auditors. A lot of work went into this, a lot of time, but also a lot of advice and assistance. And I think that just shows they went above and beyond to really help us and help us learn throughout this process. So next slide. So again, acknowledging the biannual performance audit findings, of which include a lack of formal documentation. Although there's policy in place, there are mechanisms to monitor. We need to gather all that up and make that very functional. So we certainly acknowledge that finding, as well as vehicles assigned to ineligible employees. What I'll say with that particular finding, SWAT medics are crucial to the operations, not only the fire department, but BPD. We're in a partnership with them as well. There are paramedics that serve in multi-roles there. So I'm going to highlight that again in just a second. Next slide. So again, just to reiterate some points, our department acknowledges the need to evaluate the need for take-home vehicles, which is going to include a more extensive and comprehensive review of the assignments of the vehicles themselves, kind of a how did we get here situation with those vehicles. And we're also going to revise MOP 415. So on the next slide, I'll talk about that a little bit. But that's a historical MOP that we've already begun to work on. But that really is kind of the nexus of how our program works. And then implement, I think, which is most important, is a process for quarterly reevaluation and incorporate what we use as a resource management, logistics management tool, which is Operative IQ. And I'll speak on that in just a minute as well. Next slide. So we do have as was stated, we do have a plan to mitigate some of these issues. Within 6 months, the revision of the MOP of MOP 415 will occur. Actually, it's already started, so we're well into the revision there, with February 1 being the implementation of the process itself based on the revision of the MOP. I think what's key here is the commitment to the ongoing and continuous use of Operative IQ. Just to explain Operative IQ, again, it's our asset management platform. It manages everything fire department. So from something the size of a firehouse down to the purchase of pencils and everything in between, drugs, turnout gear, breathing apparatus, that is our management platform. We've been using that since about 2020. However, we ramped up within the past couple of years. I will say that the take-home vehicle policy was not a high priority for me in comparison to managing our infrastructure, attempting to get some of the expenses under control with regard to infrastructure maintenance. So while it's part of it, it's something that as a result of the audit, we're just going to have to expedite and get to a little bit sooner. Next slide. This just hits the high points of our MOP. MOP meaning Manual of Procedure. It's Manual of Procedure number 415. As an overview, it is our take-home policy, and it defines criteria as well as approval process for assigning the vehicles to eligible members of the department. Some of the criteria, this is not all-inclusive, these are just high points, that the vehicle may be assigned to key personnel who live within a 60-mile one-way commute to the closest fire station. They do have 24/7 emergency response obligations and essential to the department and its operations, and they're pre-approved by the fire chief and/or his or her designee. Next slide. Again, the timeline implementation by January 1. We want to be beginning to revise the MOP, as I stated. This happened either towards the end of the audit or immediately thereafter, with February 1st of 2026 being the implementation of the policy. And again, key to success for this is going to be not just to write an MOP and say it's there and have it in a book, but it's going to be ongoing reassessment, quarterly reassessment. Again, Operative IQ is what's going to really make or break us on this. It's the use of a platform that we already have that's going to make or break us. And then finally, the implementation of these improvements, I'm confident, will ensure better data tracking and responsible and effective use of the resource, especially in support of emergency response capabilities. And in closing, I'll just add one additional point. One thing that we did learn in working with the auditors is the need to really use Operative IQ even more. I'm going to take that a step further. We're going to ask BSIT to be a third-party auditor for us as well as an outside data scientist. I not only want to look at this program, but I want to look at the effectiveness overall as Operative IQ, since we are relying on it as heavily as what we are for fire department logistics management. That concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions, sir.
Thank you, Chief. And again, thank you for working closely with the auditor and using this as an experience to improve the department. Thank you to the comptroller and the team for the good work that you all are doing to make agencies stronger. Just so that we're like totally clear here, because I think it can be a little gray. When an officer or employee is assigned a vehicle, are they allowed to use it only for department business?
Yeah, that's what it's assigned for. The way the MOP, I think, was originally constructed, and the thing that they should be using it for, we understand that they may have to stop somewhere on the way home from work or something like that, and that's something that's totally acceptable to us. So that would be a variable, I think, that falls into your question, I believe.
Yeah, I think things like this where, to your point, there's sort of a reasonable expectation that they're going to use it for work duties, but that there may be you got to stop to go get gas or something like that. I do think having this spelled out for folks, I think the more direct clarity there is on any kind of policy like this, the better, so that folks will know if they're inside or outside of the lines. I just always feel like it is helpful, and I share this with my staff a lot, ask questions, check, double check, triple check. But I think you all having this clear in writing, et cetera, I think would be helpful for folks.
Yes, sir.
So I do want to ask about the deputy mayor. The audit report shows that a deputy mayor and their staff had take-home vehicles from the fire department. Can you explain how that fits with our use and strategy for those vehicles? And I see Mr. Mayor jumping in here.
Yeah, that's not something the chief should be answering. That's me. And I think first, out of respect and decorum, we should be mindful that the person that we're talking about is recently deceased. So I just want to lay that out for everyone. And note that, as you heard from the auditor, Mr. President, that once that issue was found, it was addressed. It has already been addressed. But that now deceased person has to respond to every emergency, fire or otherwise, when it comes to public safety, whoever's in that role. That's why historically they have had a vehicle, and where the vehicle came from originally has been addressed as noted by the auditor.
Yeah, and much respect and love for that deceased person. We tried to understand who it was, and we're not able to. And so we're going to ask the question and, understand the policy. So, just so we're clear, though, for the department, it would not be appropriate for any deputy mayor to have a fire department take-home car. Like, is there a separate, within the mayoralty, or is there a separate way for a deputy mayor to have a car?
Yeah, I think that's been addressed. The car is in the mayoral motor pool. The technical issue has been addressed, and that's how it will go henceforth. But again, the reality is that the deputy mayor for public safety is going to have a take-home vehicle, because that person responds to every emergency, whether it's Key Bridge, a mass shooting, a shooting with a young person, a fire explosion underneath the city, 4 houses blowing up and we're losing citizens. Every single time the deputy mayor is going to be there.
Sure.
Madam City Administrator?
Sure, I'm happy to address that. So the auditor raised this issue directly for me, and we did work directly with the auditor to ensure that the mayor's motor pool was updated with all of the proper take-home vehicles. And so, as the mayor said, given the work of the deputy mayor, of course, they were required to have a take-home vehicle. The work aligned with the city's overall policy. So the policy, I think, the citywide policy says that you have to respond to, I think, 4 emergencies within a certain time frame. And so, of course, this person responding to every fire and responding to homicides and the like, of course, they had a take-home vehicle. So what we went through and did was ensure that all the vehicles aligned with the citywide policy, and that those vehicles were then in the mayor's motor pool. But the only deputy mayors that have take-home vehicles are those that respond to at least 4 or more emergencies in the period outlined by the AM.
Thank you. In the time period covered in this audit, the department paid more than $500,000 for take-home vehicles. What amount is budgeted for these vehicles each year? And let me also ask, given that some of the fire department officers / employees who had take-home vehicles were not responding to emergencies outside of their normal hours, in the course of evaluating take-home vehicle policies and assignments, have you found that the number of take-home vehicles could be reduced? And I know you're evaluating currently.
Yeah, so to your first question, it's within the line item of our vehicle budget. An exact dollar amount I don't have. I'm certainly willing to find that out, and I will, reply to that one as soon as possible. With regard to employees having vehicles that don't respond, I think there's 2 points that need to be remembered here. First, CAD is referenced as not collecting that data, and there were incidents that were talked about. When one of the primary reasons that my command staff and certain technical responders have these vehicles are for those no-notice events that are after hours. A no-notice event, and I'm going to use the Woodbury fire as an example. We could think about the Key Bridge, we could think about a lot of things, but I think Woodbury is really what's going to make this, kind of apparent.
Do me a favor, just define no notice versus.
So, an unplanned, so an emergency where we just, we don't see it coming, as opposed to a weather event, a catastrophic event that we see coming, where we have the ability to plan. A no-notice event is something that happens without any warning, without any indication, of it's about to happen. So, with regard to the Woodbury event, a lot of my command staff was on the scene. We know that particular night, we had several other incidents around the city. We bring in mutual aid fire apparatus and we backfill firehouses. That is my obligation. But I also have an obligation to maintain command and control across the city. That's where these off-duty deputy chiefs, assistant chiefs come in, and they actually become battalion chiefs. Back to CAD. CAD doesn't capture that. What CAD is looking at is that given incident, the Woodbury incident. It's not seeing that I call in my deputy chiefs, I call in my assistant chiefs, and I place them around the city. CAD doesn't see that because there's not an active incident. So that's the one point to to deconflict with CAD. As far as emergency response, I think two of the findings, or two people within the findings, one is our chief of fire communications and one is our 911 director. They don't respond to fires. It's not within their job description to do so. However, if we advance to the underground fire, the major one that took down a lot of infrastructure downtown, they 100% were in the 911 center because of the vulnerabilities that the city faced at that time, including the potential for loss of service over there. So their triggers aren't necessarily fire incidents per se. They're emergency incidents that bring them to their job site, not to the incident itself. So I want to be clear on that you don't always see them responding to an incident the way you do me. But when we have a lot of on-duty forces that are committed, what's not always seen is we still have this immense responsibility to protect the rest of the city, and that's where you begin to see them showing up outside of a CAD profile.
So underground fire, like you mentioned, the act of God kind of thing where
Key Bridge, the 7-alarm fire on Edmondson Avenue, the recent Remington fire was in the daytime. Newkirk was in the daytime. A lot of those deputies left their assigned administrative positions and they integrate out into field operations. It's that scalar way that we operate the fire department. We have to follow the incident, and as it comes down, they're released.
Just curious on that point. When there's a multi-department, as in another jurisdiction, becomes involved, how does that, what's the trigger point? How does that start happening where for any of those incidents that you mentioned, it becomes a multi-jurisdictional and they'll send their firefighters, or if they're having a similar incident, we'll send ours. How do we get to that point?
So there are in-place mutual aid agreements, some of which are automatic aid, meaning if certain things happen, we will automatically get certain resources from other departments, and again, vice versa. Oftentimes, that's just technical resources. But also under the mutual aid agreement, if we have an incident that is going to be long in duration and very impactful to the city, and I know I'm going to be committing a lot of our on-duty forces to that for a protracted period of time, we will begin to ask for them to transfer units to fill in our stations. We do that for them as well.
Mr. Mayor?
Chief, I think it'll be just good for the council president's understanding to explain how it happens the other way too. When, for example, we've done this a bunch, if Anne Arundel County has real bad and they need assistance, talk to him about the process for how you determine if and when you want to send aid and how we make those decisions. Because I think that for folks who are not in it like you and I are every day, they don't understand how common it is for us to backfill or for them to ask us for assistance in the region.
Yes, sir. So the probability or likelihood of us deploying incidents outside of the city kind of begins right within close proximity to the city line. So in areas where Anne Arundel touches the city,
Sure.
Baltimore County, Howard, they touch the city, oftentimes there's automatic aid. They have a fire, we could be the closest unit to their fire, and we would end up deploying resources there. If they have a bigger incident out in the county, then they'll call and they'll ask, hey, can you give us 2 engines and a swift water rescue team? We've done this before. I get a hold of the deputy mayor and or the mayor, and I let them know this is a request we've gotten. I feel as though right now operations within the city of Baltimore are stable and we can support a mutual aid incident. And I credit to the mayor. We get a lot of help, but our mayor is one of the first ones to stand up and say, send resources. If they need it, send resources. So there's that automatic aid that goes out, and then there are requests for assistance that come in for exterior operations as well.
Understood. Other questions from the board? Comptroller Henry?
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, Chief. Actually, just dovetailing off of that last remark, this is where I look over at the mayor meaningfully and I say, no, I think you'll, I think that commitment, that's an example of regionalism.
Yes.
Yeah, and that is something that the mayor and I are both big on, is that we have to work together collectively if we're going to make our region stronger, because the lines separating the city from the counties are invisible.
Yes, sir.
And a lot of good and bad things cross across those lines, and we have to work together if we're going to deal with the bad ones. But I did want to also thank you and your team for how you worked with our audits team on doing this. I've said this before, I will say this again. The Department of Audits is not the Department of Getcha. The Department of Audits really sincerely wants to work with agencies, help agencies be the best versions of themselves they can be, but that requires cooperation from and that cooperation starts at the top with the agency head. So thank you for working with this. Also, we get this a lot. I have spent a lot of the last 5 years growing frustrated with the fact that a lot of times the audits that we're doing are really talking about how things were done in the past under different people than the people who are there now, who are responsible for fixing those problems. And everybody who works in Baltimore City government knows one of the hardest things to do is to do something different than the way we've always done it. So when a leadership team is willing to embrace the fact that a problem has grown over time and needs to be addressed, that's the first thing we can ask for. So thank you. The one question I wanted to get at is, I had thought when I had done the first briefing on this audit, the policy that says take-home vehicles can go to employees that live up to 60 miles from whatever the nearest firehouse is to them. Is that in the AM or is that in your MOP?
We have that within the MOP.
Okay, is that also in the administrative manual? Or is that just in, okay, so that's just a fire department policy. That's not the same take-home policy as used elsewhere? And I think, Madam City Administrator.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
Let me confirm. I took a look at the AM policy because during this audit, it made me go and check
Yeah.
the citywide policy to ensure, one, the mayor's office was in compliance, but so that we also are working with our agencies to ensure they're in compliance. When I read it, I don't think I saw anything specific about mileage, but the folks from DHR are checking it right now.
Okay.
And we'll come back and confirm the mileage component of it.
Because if that is a fire department specific policy, then one of the things that was technically outside the scope of this audit, but I would encourage the fire department to review, is whether 60 miles is a reasonable threshold to be using. Because I looked on a map and that can take you practically to Harrisburg if you're going north, Wilmington if you're going east, I think Alexandria, Virginia, going south. And I picked Hagerstown because I was giving them the benefit of the doubt that they were still trying to stay in Maryland, but there's a whole little arc of West Virginia with smaller towns that probably are closer and more likely. But
They don't live there.
okay, but the point that I really want the fire department to sort of assess is, if you are that far away, are you really a first responder at that point? And listen, I get that we can't tell our people where they live, and they live where they want to live, but I think we do get to decide for ourselves, where do our take-home vehicles go? And I can certainly see how in the past someone might have made the decision that rather than paying people mileage for every time they drive into a fire, just give them a take-home vehicle. But I have to wonder if that's still, that equation still tracks at this point. And,
The mileage isn't in the AM manual.
Okay, yeah, so this
So-
is just a fire department.
Well, it's likely fire, and we should also check BPD as well. So I imagine for our public safety partners that
Okay.
their SOPs that, are built off the AM are also specific to their workforce, which is where fire would get the 60 miles. The labor commissioner isn't here, but I imagine that this is also a conversation. I don't know that it's something that we have to bargain with the union, but it's definitely a discussion to have with the union if we want to make changes to that. But I receive your feedback
Yeah.
about the mileage component and us potentially taking a closer look at that.
Okay, all right. That was pretty much it. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir, thank you.
All right. Hearing and seeing no further questions from the board, this item is noted. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Auditor. The next item on the non-routine agenda is from the Department of General Services under SB 2514276. This is a request to approve extra work order number 3 with Restoration East LLC for the Baltimore City Police Department. The period of the agreement is 3-20-2024-24-2-2027. On behalf of DGS, we have, oh, that birthday was coming up, no? All right. Sir, please introduce yourself and let us, nice, right there.
It's hiding.
All right.
Good morning. I'm Chris Hepler, Deputy Chief of Capital Projects.
Pinch hitting for Director Burkay Taylor.
Yes. So we are here to request approval on an additional change order for new scope of work and ongoing work for the emergency garage repairs project in the amount of $3,214,511.51. And this also does include a time extension to allow us to do that work. Slide 4. All right, so just a little bit of background. During the base contract work, the structural engineer of record and the restoration contractor discovered additional deterioration in the garage structure that was more advanced than initially anticipated. As a precaution, DGS determined that pausing the project was the best interest of the city to allow us time to do a thorough site investigation and assess the full extent of the issues. And we also performed a cost analysis for the necessary repairs. Upon the completion of the investigation, it was determined that proceeding with the full-scale repairs is the most effective solution to ensure the longevity and safety of the garage and in line with the needs of the parking requirements of the police department. As a result, we're requesting approval for the necessary work, including slide 5. This is replacement of beams and girders on the second, third, and fourth floors of the garage. This includes removing the existing concrete jacket, allowing us to actually assess the beam and see what's going on and allow it to be replaced. That's the balance of the change. We also noted some additional things that we want to address as well. We saw a few columns in there that we want to do some additional reinforcing on. We also want to upgrade the traffic coating to better protect the parking deck from any water infiltration issues. And we're also looking to replace a joint between the garage and where it goes to the central parking deck that's adjacent. In addition, this is the second time we've requested this change. We met with Mr. Comptroller, gave us some advisement, and we were actually able to increase our minority goals. MBE, we increased by 7.18%, and we also increased the WBE by 5.2%. So right now, we are able to attain the required goal for MBE. We're on track for that, and we've actually exceeded the WBE goals. And with that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Director, nothing to add?
I'm happy to. Good morning, Berke Atilla, Director, DGS. Good morning, Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Council President, Comptroller, and honorable members. I just want to add one thing that is not maybe.
I get us confused a lot.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just wanted to add this is an unplanned, unfunded mandate that we have to come in, swoop in, and assess and stabilize first, then reassess and correct course needed to be identified. As you all know, these types of projects, you have an assessment from the surface, and the pricing could change. I'm very glad that we were able to, initially fund the first part of this project, and that's thank you to the Department of Finance, specifically BBMR, for allowing us to use some prior year surplus funding to fund this project, and our ability to be shift around projects to continue to fund this project. What I would like to point out here is that DGS and other agencies are dealing with deferred maintenance backlog in their respective areas. This is our reality. And we don't like to do things in an emergency mode. Nobody likes to do that. But at the same time, where the parking is, what's underneath the evidence control room, the police's parking, it's a headquarters building that we gave us no chance but to address this immediately. And hoping that this will be the last time we're here for a change order, and I'm glad that we're knock on wood, yes, thank you. And we're happy that we work with you and increase the minority, the goals, and meeting them or about to meet them. That's what I wanted to add. Just wanted to highlight that there are other things that could happen today, tomorrow, that require this level of money and effort that actually takes away our planned funding for other projects. And we're in right track to get more money for the city, and we're happy for that, but this also our day-to-day reality that we deal with these types of big failures in our buildings. I just wanted to add that.
Thank you, Mr. Attila. Mr. Mayor?
Director, I just think you and I have talked a lot about this garage, unfortunately, but you hinted at it, and for Mr. President, Mr. Comptroller, I think that one of the things that I think we have to note in this is one of the things that we'll be talking about with the 10-year financial plan, and that the three of us talk about consistently. It's not something that we all did, but the city in its history, our predecessors did not invest back into city infrastructure, and this is what happens when you don't do that. You have a garage in quote unquote the new police headquarters building that fails, and then we have to be pulling these things. And I think that for me, Director, I want you to, my question to you is, what kind of impact has this had on your ability to deal with other planned for infrastructure issues?
I'll just give you a larger perspective. In a given year, our CIP to deal with all of the vertical infrastructure that the DGS is responsible for is about $16 to $20 million in a given year. That includes libraries, firehouses, police districts, downtown City Hall, elevators, Able Woman, you name it, CAP centers. This project took about $11 million. Yeah. So just for perspective, it took food of other projects that would have done about 80% of our annual CIP project that we would have done. But we didn't have to do that in the first phase due to finances sweeping action, but that's the risk. Next time, we may not have that potential, Mr. Mayor, and then we might have to divert 80% of our planned projects to an emergency.
And I had him say that, Mr. President, this is why we're trying to grow the city's capital investment, because this is something that we need to do. Thank you.
We're very thankful for that.
Other questions from the board? Hearing and seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The item is approved.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The next item on the non-routine agenda is a request to note an emergency procurement with KCI Technologies. Period of the agreement is 8/4/2025 to 11. That is November 7th 2025. On behalf of HCD, we have DHCD Chief, we have Commissioner Kennedy. The floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. President, Mr. Comptroller, Mr. Mayor, and members of the board. So we have our non-routine agenda, which was an emergency procurement for KCI Technologies to help. It's a citywide impact. If we go to the next slide, this is across the citywide. It was looking to procure additional engineering support for permits processing. As you know, we've been looking at different components, and this is a part of our people component to working through the workload of permits. So we have 3 open engineer positions that have been actively trying to be filled. On the next slide, we can go to the next slide talking next. There we go. So we have 3 positions, engineer positions that we have been working to fill. And at the time of working on this contract, and currently we had 1,700 tasks. So we look at the engineers world, it isn't that they're doing permits, like it's not counted on they move this permit, it's counted on tasks associated with a permit. So there are 1,700 tasks currently in the period of August, of August to October of this year compared to 1,400 tasks of the same period last year. So the KCI engineers have come on board. They did start in the contract starts. We received a team list in September, but it took time to get them up and running, so we didn't really get started with them doing the work and reviewing those tasks until mid-October. The source of funds on the next slide, it's $232,530. It is an up to amount, and it is not per person, it's an hourly rate for the number of engineers that end up working. We're using the KCI engineers as well. You can go to the next slide. We're using the KCI engineers as well on some of the high volume reviews, such as the solar panel installations, fire alarm and sprinkler systems, interior tenant fit outs, and working through those items.
Thank you. Commissioner, I remain deeply concerned about the state of permitting in the city of Baltimore. I continue to hear consistently from builders, developers, folks who are doing the work that it's not working. And I want to acknowledge that there are many folks who are working very, very hard to address this challenge, and that it is a long-standing challenge, but I have not seen evidence that there has been real significant progress. In fact, some research that my team has done has shown me that there have been less permits issued this year than in recent years. And so I think while it is, I understand that we're tracking, the KCI contract is tracking tasks versus permits. To me, that's an output versus an outcome, and I'm about the outcome. If we're going to have this renaissance that we all believe in Baltimore, we need to make this a city where people feel great to come and build and develop and grow both housing and businesses and all the rest. And so can you speak to the efficacy of KCI as you seek to extend their contract?
So, they have been extremely effective because they've been assisting with the tasks that we do not currently have the staff to assist with. So if we did not bring on KCI, so essentially the city does not have a blanket temporary staffing agency contract that fulfills the ability for professional services such as engineers. If there was a blanket professional services temporary staffing contract, we would have used that to bring on additional engineers to help with the tasks while we're moving the permits. We have seen significant progress in terms of where we are. We're down to 15. We've implemented the kind of fast-track permits that are issued within the same day, if not hours of submission by the applicant. We're down to 15 days median for the issuance of permits. There's over 9,392 permits that are actively in progress, and of those 9,000 right now, 6,188 are awaiting the applicant to provide information and move things forward. So there's been a lot of progress that we've made in terms of making adjustments, not just from the technology side, which, you know, when you have a rollout of technology, you have the people, you have the processes. We've been working actively with our partners at BSIT. We have Deputy CAO Kearney, Director Williams. We still run the incident, what we call the incident command, or ICS, for the permit, you know, our permitting data and moving things forward. And it is part of not just the technology, but the people and the processes. So we have seen a progress. We have seen more permits being issued. One thing to note is that you cannot look at past data from last year and compare it to the data from this year, because the number of permits and the type of permits issued changed. We changed the total number. So it will be less because there were more, and the way that accounted for the issuance of a extension is different. So you would have counted that last year. So you can't compare numbers from last year to this year because it's apples to oranges and not apples to apples unless you go in and scrub to look at some of those changes. So, you know, the KCI work is extremely important because one permit may have several tasks, anywhere from 3 to 6 to 10 tasks associated with that permit. And in order to move a permit, we needed the engineers to step in while we're filling the 3 positions so that we can continue to move those permits as fast as we can.
Understood. I will just note that the 15 days median does not track with what I'm hearing from folks in the work. So would love to double back with you outside of the BOE and understand that a little more clearly. Ultimately, as we're seeking to rebuild our system, as we're seeking to, you call it the incident command, the enormous amount of energy that's being poured into this, we are going to need to not have excessive amounts of contracting going on while we're doing this work, I would assume. I mean,
this is a like I stated, this is a temporary situation. If there were a blanket temporary staffing agency contract, such as we have as a city with Robert Half, we would have associated and gotten some temporary staff members to help assist while we are filling the vacant positions that we have to fill. So we have 3 vacant engineer positions actively have been working to have being filled. We've had some that accepted, and then one that accepted and then declined after they accepted.
Sure.
So it's that normal kind of like filling that position. So this isn't something that is long-term here. This is, we have a need. We needed to address the need in order to help fulfill the tasks and move the permitting as fast as we can to get those tasks done so we can move those components through. So,
And just before Deputy Mayor comes up, just understood that this is a temporary solution. This is a sort of a gap-filling situation. I'm still not clear, though, how we are weaning off of this. I mean, is it just it's a hiring process and we're trying to hire X amount of engineers to replace the KCI? And what all of this was precipitated by as we move to the Acela system, unanticipated need, just trying to understand like how we got here so that I can then be clear about the plan to move forward, which, as you said, this is temporary.
It is, this is temporary. During the time period when we realized that we needed, so it's about looking at the workflow and looking at the workload. And where the workflow and the workload was at the time when we, in August, basically realizing that we needed to get additional hands and brains to help work on the engineering tasks, the workload was around 1,700 tasks total, compared to the same time period last year where it was 1,400 tasks total. So we had an increase of tasks based on that workload because of some of the components moving during that time, and we were down 3 engineers because of vacancies related to people leaving, retirement, et cetera, which we did not have last year. So we have backlog of, not backlog, but we have workload. It's not a backlog, it was a workload that was higher. Because we had less number.
Well, it was a backlog though, right?
Well, at this point, this was workload. This was not backlog. This was tied to workload. So we have workload that was higher. We had vacant positions open that were not filled. We needed to be able to address the workload, to be moving those tasks on those permits. And some of the workload isn't tied to the number of permits. It's also tied to the type of permit, because depending upon the type of permit, you have more tasks associated with that type of permit. So if we had more permits coming in that had higher levels of tasks associated with them that were more in-depth permits, then those tasks would be higher, which it was showing right now. So this isn't about weaning per se, it's about using KCI, we're addressing the task workload, the new engineers will be coming in, the KCI is up to 232,350. We have no plans to increase that amount at this time, and we're working through that workload piece as people come in.
Deputy Mayor Zaid.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Deputy Mayor Khalil Zaid, Deputy Mayor for Operations. One of the issues here that I think we need to understand, it is while we have so many engineering firms in the city or outside the city in the region, there are very few firms that has the capacity of providing the type of work that we're looking for here, and that is review plans. A lot of the engineers that we have throughout the city will be able to look at things, design, do help with many of the issues that we need. To look at that permit process is a specific set of capacity that few of the engineering firms here in the city or around the region that provide that type of service. KCI has happened to be one of those firms that provide that. And when you look at the total dollar amount, it's really one full-time employee for over a year period. But obviously that's spread over multiple engineers in this case.
Mayor Scott.
I think, Mr. President, and thank you, Mr. Deputy and Madam Director. I think I just wanted to pause just to say that we know that this has been an issue, and I promise to use every resource at the city's disposal to deal with this, and this is a part of that. This work that the Deputy City Administrator, the folks at Housing, the Deputy Mayor have all done is how we've gotten to that point, and I think is a very key point that the director made, that when you talk about the outstanding permits, that a overwhelming majority of them are awaiting stuff from the people that applied. Where you and I know that we were getting the planks that it was not that long ago that the overwhelming majority was waiting for us to apply. And this capacity building and the work that they've done has gotten us to that point. It is a lot better, but we will use every resource that we have until we get it 100% to where we want it to be. We are not where we want to be, but we are light years away from where we were. That's all I got to say.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, I hear you on this being a specialized sort of talent pool. That said, though, Baltimore is a city with incredible academic talent, right? We have UMBC and Hopkins and Morgan and all of our wonderful universities. Again, this is an issue that the council has been particularly concerned about in terms of the challenges with permitting, but also, and I'll say the mayor and I have both been championing hiring local, bringing folks in to our workforce, recruiting ideally from within the city and building pipelines into even these, to your point, very specialized city agencies. Can you talk about what is the level of partnership with our research universities? I mean, I happen to know, because I went there for grad school, that there's an engineering program at Hopkins. I didn't go to the program, I went to a different program, but it's quite good. And I know that Morgan, UMBC, like there's several in town. So just curious how we are aligning so that we don't have to rely on a contract with a firm like KCI.
So
Madam
thank
City
you.
Administrator.
Of course, thank you so much, Mr. Council President, for that question. And I'm happy to address the partnerships that we have. So we have a direct partnership with Morgan State University. We have our HBCU Fellows, where we specifically partner with Morgan State School of Engineering to get more engineers into the city, and the Department of Transportation, Housing, the Department of Public Works as well. So there is a direct partnership with our academic institutions to ensure that we're increasing the pipeline of employees from our local universities into city government, specifically engineers, is called out as a part of that HBCU fellowship. But there are a couple things that I want to make sure that we're keeping in mind and that are staying top of mind. So,
Could you just pause on that one real
Sure.
quick? I want to say I really appreciate you and this administration and bringing in that type of partnership. I think it's badly needed. I think there's been a lot of times where our city has not been good enough at, or the city government has not been good enough at reaching out to our meds, eds, and particularly where there's value to be added and where we can support each other. I love to hear about these types of partnerships. Is it specific to this need? You mentioned pulling engineers. Given that this is a clear, present challenge for this department, for our city, and that permitting has been a challenge for a long time, are we recruiting folks specifically to fill this job?
yes, we have. So the way that I can talk more about the HBCU Fellows Program in particular. So the way that we designed the program is we actually identify vacancies that have been harder to fill within city government. And what we noticed is that a number of our engineering positions, whether in DPW or at the housing department, have been harder to fill. And so what we do is we say, when we go out to recruit from Morgan State or to recruit from Coppin State, we say, these are the engineering roles that we currently have vacancies. Now, when we recruit those young people in, they come in, they work for, I think, 8 to 10 months with the city of Baltimore. If they do a good job, the hope is that they will then take on that vacant position that has been hard to fill, because we've now trained them on the job for 8 months to be able to fill a role like the engineers that we need in the Department of Housing. So it was specific to housing, and DOT and water and wastewater engineers is how we designed the program. But to talk specifically about the KCI contract, and what I tapped the commissioner and I was like, Commissioner, I don't know if I would say that we're not going to come back. I mean, my hope is that we don't have to come back. But to the mayor's point about putting all the resources that we can towards permitting, that's exactly what we're doing here. And so the idea isn't to not fill the vacant engineers that we have. It is to fill the vacant engineers that we had. But even if we had all of those engineers filled, what we know is that there has been a demand from you, Mr. Council President, from the mayor, and from our broader community that says we need to go faster. And so a lot of times, and I'll speak broadly, not just about this permitting issue, but I mean, like there's a finance contract that we're going to be talking about soon in a couple of other places, is yes, we can bring folks into the roles, but we also are going to have to spend the time needed to train those folks, which we will absolutely do. But at the same time, we got to make progress, and we have to make progress faster. And so in those cases, we want to be able to work with local firms, because just as important, it's equally as important for us to also be working and supporting our local businesses here as well. But of course, we want to hire the talent within government, but I think we can do both. I think we can support local businesses, and I think we can and hire the best and brightest talent that we have. But there are going to be times where the demand from you, the demand from the mayor and the comptroller and others is going to be, hey, city administrator, I need you to go faster. And I'm going to say, in order to go faster, I got to bring in some additional support. Now, that support, we should not be coming back here 2 years from now and I'm like, hey, I need another $1 million from KCI. If we are doing that, then I have failed you. But what I'm saying is, in the period that we're in with the demand and the directive that has been given, we needed additional engineering support so that we could be able to produce even faster. And so that is why this contract is in front of you, and I wholeheartedly supported the contract and both work with the deputy mayor and the director on making the decision to bring on KCI, because we knew that this was a gap. It was a gap, and when we looked at where there were challenges with moving things forward faster, it was because of the workload. We were putting entirely too much workload on a small set of engineers. And so it's incumbent upon us to fill the engineer vacancies and also evaluate if we need more engineers, right? Or are there certain things that shouldn't be going to those engineers that are going to those engineers? But while we're doing that, we need the surge capacity, and that's what this is for.
Look, you're absolutely right. The directive on this is fast,
Yeah,
right? Like, we want to see this done. I think what I am pushing on, and where you're going to see the council continue to press, is this the right service? Is this the right augmentation? Are we seeing progress? Like, again, I heard about tasks, which obviously is important. You can't get to an outcome without outputs, without folks doing tasks. I think where I have struggled, not just with this contract, but generally, is I want to be clear in this moment, not 2 years from now with another $1 million, that, like, this is the right investment. Anytime we are going outside of our normal, the folks that report to you, that report to the mayor, that will be overseen by the city council, that will be audited by this gentleman over here, anytime that we're using any additional labor, which as a general principle, I hope that we are moving away from, because it is often more expensive. It is at times non-unionized. It is not growing our own workforce, which I think is another goal. But anytime we do that, and if it is a surge situation, and if it is about fast, and if it is about we got to fix something that is clearly broken and it needs to be all hands on deck, and that means some private sector folks as well as all the best and brightest from within this building, I just want to be really, really clear that these investments that we're making are leading us to a better outcome. And that is what I am sort of seeking in this conversation here.
I think it's absolutely the right question, right? And that's why the board exists, is for us to have this type of discussion. I'll speak to there are a couple things I'll speak to. I'll speak to the notion of tasks versus the issuance of permits, right? So I think the request is, we want to know how many permits is KCI going to be able to help us issue. And you haven't been able to get a direct answer that KCI is going to be able to issue X permits, because KCI doesn't issue permits, right? They are a part of the review process. And so, which is why we're talking about the number of reviews or the number of tasks that they were able to do. I'm going to speak off the top of my head to see if I recall these numbers correctly. There were this month 600 plus tasks. 600 or 700? 600 tasks. And of those 600 tasks, the folks at KCI did what, 200? 200 plus of the 1,600 tasks that were sent to the engineering group, right? To just give you an example of the additional capacity that they're adding to the current folks that do this work. Commissioner, how many engineers do we have?
7.
So we currently have 7 engineers, and then we have the surge capacity from KCI. Now, the deputy mayor spoke about the KCI folks in terms of the equivalent of 1 FTE, because, I mean, of course, the contract is $200,000+, so that's the equivalent maybe of 1 FTE. But that is actually based off of, it's really focused on hours. So we're actually getting multiple people that are doing this work. So it's not like one person who's in there every day doing a task. KCI is sending us multiple people that are helping us, to do those tasks. And when we get to that $200,000, then we will have, fully exhausted the contract. But that's just an example to give you the concrete numbers. 600 total have come in. 200 have been done by KCI. Those 200 would have been done by the 7 engineers. So those 7 engineers would have had to do the whole 600 versus now they have 400, KCI has 200, and we can, move even faster. And I think another measure that would be really helpful, and we'll get this to you, is the review time, right? So because I can imagine if you only had those 7 engineers doing the 600 tasks that were in front of them, then the time that it takes for them to get to the next task is going to be longer. But now that KCI is doing 200 and our folks are doing 400, then now we can move through those tasks a lot faster and get to faster issuance of permits. So that's a example of why we think that this surge capacity that they're offering is freeing up the workload on the current staff who are, they're pretty overwhelmed.
Understood.
And so we're we're trying to move faster and give them some much needed support to help stabilize. But that is kind of the concrete output that we are seeing from the KCI engineers so far.
Yeah, and I would say that is the kind of metric that I would be
Yes.
seeking as we continue to have hearings in the city council, as we continue to have this conversation about the systems, the structures, the processes, all the rest, is
Yep.
like, okay, we added this $240-something thousand contracted person, the equivalent of a
Yep.
higher-end FTE. How much did that person accelerate the
Yeah.
time at which the thing
And
was
we've-
done, as opposed to just like the person did 200, like
Yeah, of
a
course.
task is like
Yeah, of
It's
course. I mean,
fuzzy,
I get,
right? Like-
exactly. You want more. So I'm happy to work with the team on that. One of the charts that we showed in the last council hearing, we showed when we did what is it? I'm gonna call it quick take. Sorry. The fast track. The team, I know, so many terms in my head. But the team pulled together, so the dashboard, which I do want to spend a second talking about, but the team pulled together a chart, right, of the start of Acela, and, we saw the dip in the issuance of permits, and then, the slow tick up, and then we start fast track, and then that's where you start to see, oh, we're producing even higher. Like, we were able to show when we've done interventions how that has then changed the overall output. And so I think it'll be interesting to put in the KCI intervention, right? Because that's what I've been asking the team is, I want to see if the interventions are working. There are a number of ways I can measure it, but the only way that the public and the outside folks are going to measure us on is, are we moving faster and are they having less issues? And so that's why I've been trying to, on those charts, put in exactly when the intervention occurred to see if that is resulting in us going higher and producing more. And so we've done that for the quick fast track. We'll do that also for the KCI engineers to see if that, of course, also helped expedite or, help us produce more permits faster. And then one note, I know, I'm sorry, board members here. But to the point made earlier about data that was received, I just want to be clear for the folks that are watching at home or might be reporting on this, all that data is public now. So one of the things that we committed to in the council hearings was that we would produce a dashboard for the general public that keeps us accountable and that demonstrates exactly and very transparently where we're at with our production and the permits. And so I just pulled up that dashboard, wanted to make sure that it was out there and that it was working, and to check the numbers. And we're at 2,100, I think, issuance this month, so far. This time last year, though, we were at 2,600. But to the commissioner's point, and I'll make sure that that we do the proper footnoting. But to the commissioner's point, we combined some of the permit types. So there are not as many permits that could be issued as was before Acela, right? So a part of this was saying you have too many permit types and it's confusing to the user. Let's consolidate some of these. So that's why the team is saying it's not necessarily an apples to apples comparison, but I still think it's really important to note where we are now versus where we were, because even though it's not directly comparable, it still tells a story. And so I encourage folks to take a closer look at that dashboard. And the dashboard does calculate the average issuance time, and it is 15 days.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Madam City Administrator. Mr. President, I know it's something that you believe in. I just wanted to make sure that we got this on the record. While we all agree, and you know that I agree, that we have to be growing our employment within city government and growing the folks that are in those respective bargaining units. But I want to be very clear, especially in the time that we're in right now, that we say publicly that the city will always have some kind of dealings with the private industry around, in particular, minority and women, because we know that in, not just in our city, but in our state, when you think about the wealth that black people have amassed in this state, much of it has been on the backs of working through government contracts, and that's something that, especially in light of what's happening at the federal level, where they are purposely dismantling that we make it be known that the city will not be doing that.
Are there any other questions? I see Mr. Garbark.
Thank you, Mr. President. Commissioner, I know you and I had some conversations about potentially using other agency resources to help with this, and I know I appreciate that discussion. And I think, you know, one of the things we talked about was how, to the deputy mayor's point, the work needed is not just technical engineering work. There's also stuff about code requirements and permitting, and that our engineers and even our contractors, because I know we talked about that, don't know that level of it. Someone like a KCI does and can jump right in without any sort of learning curve. So I just wanted, that's correct, right? Am I correct in that understanding?
That is correct. I actually, I really appreciate Director Garbark, you bringing that up. I had conversations both with you, Director Garbark, in looking at the possibility of utilizing DPW engineers, and I also had the conversation with Director Attila about the potential for using DGS engineers, and it was the same kind of component where workload and expertise and what actually would help move the needle as, you know, best as we possibly could.
Thank you. Mr. Comptroller.
Thank you, Mr. President. One quick comment, which is I'm going to remind you of a comment from an earlier Board of Estimates meeting where I wrote a little note on the thing saying, good, fast, cheap, pick two. Yeah, like once you accept the fact, that you want it to be fast, that's a priority, you can do it good or you can do it cheap. You're not going to get it fast, good, and cheap. So that's one of the things that I accept. If we need to get ourselves out of this problem, we're going to have to. This is the same. This is just another permutation of we didn't invest in the past in this case, our human infrastructure, and now we are paying for it now. Where I do want to agree with the council president, and I don't think I'm disagreeing with the mayor in the terms of this kind of situation. I hope we can resolve this situation in a long-term fashion where the long-term solution is we rebuild our in-house capability of permit review to the point where we don't need to go outside to get that.
That is exactly where, you know, what we've stated, you know, we have this three-prong approach that basically looks at is technology, it is people, it is also the process policy component, right? And there is a significant part of that which is looking at the people and evaluating and knowing what the new technical system is capable of, how that also impacts what the people needs are, which is part of that evaluation as well. So it is ongoing because they are all interconnected. You can't just look at one in the silo, you have to look at them all together. And it's been a key piece of moving forward the three-prong kind of strategy in terms of progress and process. And the other piece of that comes in is Be More Fast. I think, you know, that covers a lot of different components of the policy process piece that also picks up some of the people piece. So
are we still implementing Be More Fast? Is that?
Yes, absolutely. That is part of that, and actually what would impact the future on the review is one of the next stages of Be More Fast that we've been talking about and that Director Williams and I have been talking through is the third-party plans review for specific permit applications and permit types, which would also, reduce the task workload on city staff as well. So we saw that, be able to be successful with the fire department and their kind of rollout. And that is one of the next things which would also impact overall speed, process, and our total people need and how to leverage some of the outside entities. So Be More Fast is still, that is, I don't want to say still, it is an active mayoral administration priority and actively working on the components that make up that kind of plan and strategy to really think about the process of economic development and building, because it isn't just about a permit in, getting that one permit and all of the different components about it. It's about all of the other pieces, whether or not it's the plans review or the developers agreements with DPW and DOT, all of it comes into play.
We'll be joining Be More Fast with Be More Good as well.
Or Be More cheap.
Be More cheap doesn't,
don't be more
we don't,
cheap.
Right,
we-
we
we'll
don't wanna
never,
do that one,
we're
right?
never going to have Be More
Don't
cheap.
Right,
Yeah.
Don't be more
exactly.
cheap.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about it in a while, and so.
Yeah.
Okay. Other questions from the board? I will just, from my other hat, the city council is going to continue to hold hearings, engage deeply on this topic. It is, I think, really important to all the members of this board, and obviously to you as well, Commissioner, because to me, it's in this moment where so much of the federal government is falling apart, and we're seeing people's belief that the public sector, that government can do big things, can be their backbone, can have their back. I think this is just one where, I said this a year ago, I'll continue to say it, we just have to get it right. It is just people's basic faith in our ability to function as a government. There is, and I know it's more complex than it sounds, but being able to issue a permit in a reasonable, expeditious, transparent amount of time with all of its component pieces, moving pieces, and all the rest, I think there is a strong public desire, which I hear over and over and over again, that we got to be able to get this right. And again, at a time when I think Baltimore is showing, in spite of some of the calamity and chaos coming out of our sister city in Washington, D.C., that we are standing up, we are doing the things that impact people's lives in a positive way. It remains a deep, deep concern that we continue to have deep challenges with permitting. And so expect additional hearings, expect more conversations anytime you or any other agency seeks additional support. It is not to say you won't get the support. It is not to say that we don't, at times, to the CA and the mayor's point, need contracting and all the rest. But it is to say that we are really looking for improved outcomes on this issue.
I agree, and we welcome the opportunity to, present and have that dialogue with City Council during the hearings. Our last permit hearing, I think, it was able to show the significant progress that we have made. It has been able to show the different components of what has been put into place, what is coming down the pike in terms of changes. And as the mayor said, as CAO said, and as I will say, we have made significant progress since, the new software, in terms of the new implementation of the new software, and we've made also significant progress in terms of some of the other policy and procedural changes with our partner agencies, et cetera. So at this point in time, I personally would not characterize that we have deep problems or deep issues with permitting in Baltimore. I think that we have some process components, and we have certain ones that take a little bit longer, but we are actively, making those changes, and as the mayor said and the CAO, and we are committed to putting all of the resources, behind looking at what does it take to have a transparent process. This is the most transparent that we have had in a permits world, I think in the most recent 10 to 15 years at all. The fact that there is a dashboard that we're able to have, data and show those days, that is one of the key things that was a driver in the new system as well, which would allow us with the transparency, allow the public to see where things are and continue to make those improvements. So the dedication is there. There is progress. Is it perfection? No. Is there progress? Absolutely. And we continue to be dedicated with all resources towards that progress and addressing the changes and being able to show where those interventions were made and what was the result of that intervention.
Madam CAA, I'm going to resist my greatest impulses to continue to argue with the commissioner and instead allow you to have the last word
Yes.
before.
Oh, yes,
never
thank
mind.
you. So I had 2 points before the mayor came back. I was hoping to get them in. One of them was in response to the comptroller. But first is a very quick story, and then is my final point, because I know we want to wrap this one up. So quick story, I was at the MACO City Administrators Conference. They do one every year. And we were in Howard County, and Howard County did a session on their new permit system, and it was the most well-attended session for all of the county administrators. And we all were on the edge of our seats to figure out how Howard County fixed permitting. And the headline here is they didn't fix permitting, but they were rolling out a new system that they built in-house. But so many other county administrators which most of them used Acela, had very similar challenges. And this is not about the system itself. This is just generally, you can look across the country, and I don't know that there is a jurisdiction in the world that has perfected permitting. Now, I don't want this to sound like, an excuse of any sort, but this is a challenge that many jurisdictions and administrators are still working to try to figure out, and we're learning from each other. In Howard County, they had Acela. They decided no longer to use Acela. They built a homegrown system using a local vendor, using AI, and the like, right? And so there's so many learnings, and I'm going to see the results of the work in Howard County to see if there are things that we can bring here. But moral of the story, lots of folks are dealing with the issue, and we're all learning from each other. So that was that one story. And then the last part was about the engineers. We've talked about this before in relative to DPW and the cost of the engineer contractors. I want to tie this to the salary study, which took us, 3 years, I think, to do the salary study for AFSCME and CUB. But the broader issue is one that we talk about often, and it is pay, right? It's the classification and the compensation of those engineer classes, right? In order to be able to attract the engineers that we want to be able to attract in the city. And again, that's something that we're absolutely are working on. But when you think about that, that's a longer term, I would call it a medium to longer term fix that we're actively working to address. We just saw the results with AFSCME. Hopefully soon we'll see the results of the new, salary study with CUB, but it took us 3 years. So in the interim, we're going to have to come up with those interventions and fixes until we're able to properly adjust and reclassify engineers and other professional positions so that we're a bit more competitive. So.
Mr. Comptroller?
Yeah, you're not arguing with me on that. Okay.
No, it wasn't an argument at all, Mr. Comptroller.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was using his, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, we don't argue.
Yes. Yeah,
No.
I totally get that this is a medium to long-term
No. You reminded me of a conversation that you and I have had on the board about engineers in particular, and how we always talk about, well, wouldn't it just be cheaper for us to pay our engineers more versus paying outside engineers more? And I'm like, you're right.
Yeah.
And so a part of doing that is fixing those professional classifications like we did with AFSCME and CUB, which will be the next phase of our salary study work, is my point.
Yeah, and although also to the council president's point, some of that also involves us working with the institutions that make engineers.
Of course.
So that we can try to expand the pool
Yeah.
and get them into our service
Yeah.
while they're still willing to work for what we pay.
Yeah, so, yes, and that's, I think what we find a lot of times is that we can attract folks, and when it comes to entry-level salaries, we may be competitive, but once you get to the
Yeah.
midpoint or the more senior engineers, we just can't compete with some of the outside folks.
And that's going to continue to be a challenge. I was also going to say that with the council president referenced his two hats. With my comptroller, member of the Board of Estimates hat on, it occurs to me that the Board of Estimates, while we don't necessarily hold hearings the way the city council holds hearings, it would probably be productive if we formally asked HCD to provide us with quarterly data on how the permit process improvement is going. And whether that is by somebody coming here and talking to us, or whether that's just information that gets sent and then we can ask for additional briefings or questions. I don't know that I have strong feelings about that, but I would put that out there for the board, that we should be getting that
Yeah.
data
We can do,
on a regular
I think we
basis.
we can do an update, because occasionally we do updates at the board. We can do that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Great. I'm just going to put on my third hat just to irritate the mayor for a moment. And with that, seeing no further questions, this item is now noted by the board. Mr. Mayor.
I just want to note that now as you put that hat on, there will be a meme that comes from that. Just forewarning you, Mr. President.
He's just jealous that he can't wear that hat.
Jealousy is not the word I would describe.
All right, the next four items on the non-routine agenda are concerning the same subject matter with the Department of Human Resources. So I will call them together for discussion and vote on them separately at the conclusion. Those items are SB 2514310, Human Resources Administrative Manual Revisions, AM 230, parentheses PM 101-2, downgrading procedure, $0, SB 25-14308, Human Resources Administration Manual Revisions, AM 233, in parentheses, AM 2013-1, creation, abolishment of positions, no dollars. SB 25-14299, Human Resources Administrative Manual Revisions, 201-4, new classifications, $0. SB 25-14303, Human Resources Administrative Manual Revisions, AM 230-1, in parentheses, AM 201-3, position description, no dollars, SB 2514305, Human Resources Administrative Manual Revisions, AM 201-3-2, proposed reclassification, $0. Moment of appreciation for Madam Clerk. That was clunky, and if you had read it, it wouldn't have been. On behalf of the Department of Human Resources, we have Assistant Director Tate. The floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, and Mr. Comptroller, and members of the board. I am Michael Tate, as he just said. We're going to be talking about 5 new policies that we have put before you. The first one is going to be PM 101-2. The former downgrading policies, AM 230-5 and AM 230-5-1, have been abolished and converted into PM 101-2. They now exist only as procedural instructions within the personnel manual with no remaining policy content. This update eliminates outdated policies originating from 1980. Second one is reclassification of positions, which is AM 201-3-2. AM 230-4 has been renumbered and modernized. The updated policy clarifies terminology and adds a formal introduction, definitions, requirements, and detailed procedures for requesting position reclassification. It replaces the outdated 1983 version with a clearer and more accurate structure. Next policy is our new classification policy, which is policy AM 201-4. This new policy establishes consistent, objective standards for evaluating positions and applying classification practices. It adds scope definitions, and classification requirements that did not previously exist in the administrative manual. Next is our personnel action requests and position descriptions, AM 201-3. The former AM 230-1 has been renumbered and updated to modernize both its name and content. New sections include an introduction, definitions, and clarified requirements for position descriptions. And our last is position creation and abolishment policy, AM 230-3, which updates clarifying language, improves transparency, and consolidates requirements previously spread across memorandas. Key updates include clearer scope covering employees, officials, contractors, and volunteers, reinforcement of required Board of Estimates approval, mandatory ERMS submissions, which is Workday currently, alignment with PM 101-1 and PM 101-6, and explicit identification of Civil Service Commission approval requirements. That concludes my presentation, and I will take any questions that you might have.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions from the board? Hearing and seeing none. Not even on. Hearing and seeing no questions from the board, thank you, Mr. Tate. I will first entertain a motion to approve item SB 2514-310, Human Resources Administration Manual Revisions, AM 230-5, downgrading procedure, $0.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. The item is approved. Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve item SB 2514-308, Human Resources Administration Manual Revisions, AM 230-3, in parentheses, AM 201-3-1, creation and abolishment of positions, $0.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. The item is approved. Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve item SB 25-14299, Human Resources Administrative Manual Revisions 2201-4, new classifications, $0.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
I didn't get the aye out fast enough, that's all.
The item is approved. I will entertain a motion to approve item SB 2514-303, Human Resources Administrative Manual Revisions, AM 230-1, position description, $0.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The item is approved. Lastly, I will entertain a motion to approve item SB 25-14305, Human Resources Administrative Manual Revisions, AM 201-3-2, proposed reclassification, $0.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. The item is approved. Thank you. The next item is a request to increase the funding for a contract with American Traffic Solutions, Inc., DBA Vera Mobility. Period of agreement is 5-17-2017 to 5-17-2026. On behalf of the Department of Transportation, we have the director. Madam Director, I didn't expect you. I thought your deputy was coming. Director Macbeth, the floor is yours.
I'm mad you didn't see me sitting there for the last 20 years.
I stay focused on the person in front of me at that podium, ma'am.
It just feels like 20 years. It's only been an hour and 48 minutes.
But it's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. Good morning, everyone. Mr. Comptroller, Council President, and Mr. Mayor, and esteemed members of the Board of Estimates. Great to see you. Presentation? Do we have it? Are you all able to pull it up?
Patrick.
We sent it last night to be. Okay, well. All right,
Yes, I'll join the WebEx.
okay,
I do it all.
sorry,
Sure, do you have, I'll forward you.
my bad. Here I am talking trash and they weren't ready. All right, so I'm just going to start out just a little bit with the intro in the essence to save some time. So we're here to just talk about the ATVES program and providing an intro about the proven public safety impacts, but also talking about key enforcement highlights and funding needs for the program. So currently, we've grown our program from 32 cameras starting in 2018 to 165 cameras as of now in 2025, and that's just reflecting on the city's commitment to our Vision Zero program and also the use of crash data, speeding patterns, and the community concerns that identify the high-risk corridors that we have. Speed enforcement continues to deliver measurable improvements in the city of Baltimore and the severe crashes that we have had with fewer high-end speeding incidents and enhancing protection for students, pedestrians, and neighborhoods. So taking a note of high operational throughput and strong accountability, our ATVES now processes over 1 million events annually. We're supported by a multi-level quality assurance program, strict vendor oversight, as well as full compliance with the Maryland Transportation Article, Section 21-809. And so improving our driver behavior across the city, we have lowered recidivism rates, with majority of motorists not receiving a second citation within the same year, demonstrating that the enforcement is changing long-term driver behavior. And subsequently, our presentation today is just to highlight these accomplishments, outlining our operational needs, and addressing any questions that you may have, including about our program performance, strategic value, and feasibility of some of the in-house operations that we are moving through. So the next component I'll talk about is the safety outcomes for our enforcement, which is talking about the impact of our automated speed enforcement program. Again, over the multiple years of our evaluation from 2018 to 2025, we have both fixed and mobile speed cameras, which are consistently reducing severe crashes. We've seen a 20 to 35% reduction in crashes in corridors where cameras have been deployed. And these are among the most serious and costly incidents that the city works to prevent, notably also protecting students in school zones. At historically high-speed school zone locations sustained enforcement changes driver behaviors dramatically. We've observed 85 to 95% drops in vehicles traveling 12-plus miles over the speed limit, and that's where we will see our speed cameras in school zones where they're located, which is the exact range that we associate with child pedestrian fatality risks. And this is one of the highest performing safety interventions that we have in our DOT toolbox. And then also behavior changes, not revenue, is the outcome goal. So the objective is compliance. So when drivers are slowing down, citations drop and safety improves. At most locations, once the cameras are installed, the violation volumes decrease significantly over the course of months, and then demonstrating long-term behavior changes. And then a fourth goal is the data-driven deployment prognosis. So this is the third slide, if it's helpful. This essentially is assuring that all cameras which are placed in both school zones, high injury corridors are guided by crash history, speed studies, roadway engineering conditions, and documented complaints. And this ensures resources are placed where risks and high injury impacts are the strongest. And foundationally, for upcoming program improvements, this also helps us justify the continued investment that we are requesting today. And with new legislative authority, which we just installed as of October 1st, including tiered fines on I-83, expanded school zone protections, and maturing infrastructure, this program is positioned for even greater safety returns. Next slide, please. So here we're talking about the budgeting for these speed cameras. So it's broken down into service and activity. So we have traffic safety and then traffic cameras. And essentially the costs are allocated across both the general fund and then the special fund that is for the I-83 cameras. And that is how we categorize the enforcement components. So the general fund includes red light cameras, speed cameras, and the large truck enforcement cameras that are located throughout the city. And so those particular citywide program cameras that are within the general fund accumulate at about $24.7 million per year. And that's net revenue over about a 4-year average. And within the special fund, which is the I-83 enforcement program, that is accumulating on average at about $6.3 million per year, and that is before the tiered revenue program. So we should see significant revenue changes over the course of the upcoming years. So combined revenue of about $31 million annually, and we're looking at the citywide fiscal programs for fiscal 25 at $13.7 million, at fiscal 26 at $14.1 million, and that is for the general fund. And then I-83, $4 million for fiscal 25, and for fiscal 26, $3.8 million. So essentially the context of why I'm here. These costs directly support the camera operations, the maintenance, data processing, Q&A review, infrastructure repairs, and compliance requirements. And so despite the operational expenses, the program maintains a strong positive fiscal return while delivering documented safety benefits and citywide. Next slide, please. So here, what we're talking about, the need is $16.6 million and what this fund will support. So the authorization covers the operation of the fixed and portable speed enforcement systems, the data processing, back office systems, citation management, field services and maintenance, relocations and infrastructure work, continued support of I-83 safety enforcement initiatives. Sorry. I lost my spot. It also would include the continued compliance with the Maryland Transportation Article. And so essentially, we're looking for approval to ensure the uninterrupted enforcement of the program, maintaining the legal compliance, continuing the ongoing crash reduction efforts across the city in these high-risk corridors, and especially the I-83 corridor. Last slide, please. So happy to answer any questions or discussions. I have my team here with me. I have my director for ATVES who can answer any specific nuance questions, and I also have my contract admin assistant deputy for any contractual nuance questions.
Going to start with Comptroller Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Laura, can you go back one actually, could you share the slide deck again? Sorry, I needed to go back, I think, to the second slide from the end.
The funding position?
Yes, that one, that's it. I think I know the answer to this because I think it's pretty straightforward. I just want to make sure I'm not assuming too much. Where it says, on average, this program generates $31 million a year in revenue, that's what we actually collect. That's not ticket, like tickets that we issue. That's what we actually collect.
It's what we collect.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Director Macbeth, and Vera's not here, are they? Oh, they are? Okay. If you all wouldn't mind coming up, we'd been in some dialogue, as well as another one of my colleagues, about this contract. And just wanted to know if you all did the audit of the cameras in the city to root out the ones that speed limits are not accurate based on the actual speed limit of the street and the posted signs. Per my colleague, you all had committed to doing this.
Yes.
And so wanted to see whether that happened or not. And I'll maybe let Director Macbeth speak and then.
Yeah, I'm happy to start. We did do the audit. We did the audit specifically in the area of, happy to name your colleague if you'd like, but.
Or not.
I mean, yeah, Councilman Schleifer asked us to do an audit of specific areas where there was 2 signs that were mislabeled as far as the speed camera was calibrated correctly. The sign that was installed was incorrect. It led to, if I'm not mistaken, 27 tickets that were erroneously ticketed based on signage versus ticketing. We refunded all of those tickets. We even took it a step further and extended the refunds a little beyond the time frame from where the signs were put up to beyond the timeline of what it was changed to, just to ensure that nothing overran those timelines. Subsequently, not only did we review that particular area, Vera then went through all of its areas where the speed cameras were located and matched and calibrated the cameras with the actual speed signage to ensure that they were equally calibrated and matched appropriately. I will allow them to speak further as the expert in the room.
Good morning, President Cohen, Mayor Scott, Comptroller Henry, members of the Board of Estimates, and members of the public. My name is Tristan Masley Ellis, and I'm the Manager of Strategic Partnerships, and I'm here on behalf of Vera Mobility, doing business as American Traffic Solutions. I want to begin by expressing our sincere appreciation for the opportunity to speak today regarding the agenda item related to this program. First and foremost, referencing the audit and us calibrating our cameras throughout the city. This is an ongoing initiative that we do throughout our program. I can speak to this taking place within our system. Our cameras will automatically calibrate. However, we will do a hard physical calibration as well quite frequently. And I can get you, following this meeting, the actual timeline in which we do that to ensure that our program is as accurate as possible.
So just to be clear, the director mentioned my colleague who had asked you to do this audit. Absolutely. You had committed to doing it. Did you do it?
Yes, we did, sir.
Okay. Yeah. And so that data has been presented back to him?
Yes, yes. This was shared, and I can have I can myself share it with your office as well and the entire board.
Okay. Yeah, I would appreciate you sharing it with my office. There seems to be some confusion on that point with his office, so I appreciate that. Please proceed.
Oh, absolutely. If I may, and I won't be too long on your time.
You can tilt that microphone up a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. I got a little bit taller. So Vera Mobility has proudly partnered with the City of Baltimore for more than 4 years, working side by side with city leadership, agency partners, and community stakeholders to support one shared goal, and that's creating safer streets for everyone who lives, works, and travels through the Charm City. Most importantly, and I'm not going to go through this entire thing that they wrote for me, is that we are a dedicated partner, and I specifically in my role am a dedicated partner. Anytime that a street or block by block specific issue comes up or has been encountered, we look to be as responsive as possible, as the entire purpose of this program is safety, revenue coming a little bit further down on the totem pole. And so just want folks to know I'm leaving my information here today. I am around consistently, and most importantly, we are here as a trusted partner throughout this program's lifestyle. Thank you.
I would definitely appreciate a copy. My colleague told me he had not received that, so again, I think there's some confusion. And Mr. Plout, who I see over here, maybe you could follow up as well.
You'll get that before lunch, sir.
Very much appreciated.
Absolutely.
How much money has the city collected to date from the 83 camera tickets, and how much has the entire project cost to date? That one is for you, Madam Director.
Okay. I don't have the exact numbers offhand with me. I can get that to you probably within the hour. But yeah, I'm not sure offhand. I didn't bring the direct numbers. Oh.
Okay. Yeah, I asked because, I've had some concern, and I know my colleagues have as well, that, first off, safety is paramount, right? The purpose of the entire project is to slow people down, and I think it has done that, which is important. And again, anytime we're working with a contractor, we want to make sure that the city is compensated in a way that makes sense, that we get the work done, and that the city is able to recoup a significant amount of the revenue. And there have been some concerns related to the cameras on 83. Again, I want to restate for the public record that safety comes first, and that I do think this has been effective in slowing cars down that speed down 83. It is a much more pleasant drive anytime I do it. And it is important for the city to uphold its fiscal responsibility. And whenever we're issuing a ticket to a citizen or a resident or anyone from anywhere, that we get as much of that revenue back as is humanly possible.
Understood.
Going to go to Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I thank you, Mr. President. I totally agree, and I know that this is what we have been doing, but I just want to make sure that we also put on the record that despite our attempts, we are still limited in what we can do on 83 by the state of Maryland. You and I both know that many of the people that are receiving these tickets do not reside in the city of Baltimore. We know that there's been a long-standing discussion about 83, for example. It took us a many of year to get the state of Maryland to have Maryland State Police responding to accidents and things on 83, as they did with every other highway in the state of Maryland, with the exception of I-83 in Baltimore City until very recently. And that was costing the city of Baltimore millions of dollars a year when you think about what was happening with the Northern Police District. And now here we are, though we are recouping money from these cameras on 83, we are still limited in our ability to do things to do exactly what you just said, slow folks down. As someone who has lived here for almost 42 years, I cannot imagine the life for me why people still speed on 83, especially when it rains or the wind's blowing a certain way, but they do. And we have to do everything in our power to make sure that we're slowing them down.
Madam CA.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. So to answer your questions, we just pulled up the numbers for 83, and this past fiscal year, I think we ended up generating about 1.2 in revenue. So I want to say we generated maybe $6 million, and then our expenditures were around $5 million. So it was about $1.2 million that we had to invest back into 83. I think one of the changes that is benefiting us is this tiered fine system. We've already since the implementation of tiered fines, which happened in October, have seen an additional uptick in the revenue that is available for us to generate based off of the citation numbers that are coming in. So of course, folks know with the tiered fines, depending on your speed, you're fined a higher amount. So that is impacting the revenue that we're being able to generate. But to your point, I think, again, I talk about the role of the board, and I think this is exactly it. There is an opportunity, I think, for us to go out to the market, which we're absolutely doing. We're actually working on the RFP now to go out to market to be able to see what's out there and to have discussions with all the vendors that are interested in how we can design our program to ensure that the city gets the resources it needs to invest back into our roadways. So to your point, that this is going to be a competitive contract, but for now, this is the vendor that we have. We want to make sure there's a continuity of services while we go through the process of scoping the contract and putting it out for bid. And that's what this is this is just putting the money towards the program to pay the current invoices to keep the program active.
Understood. To the mayor's supposition, have we done an analysis of all the folks that we catch speeding on I-83, what percent are from the city, what percent are not from the city? I mean, even looking at license plates, not from the state, our friends from Virginia, et cetera. Have we done any look at that?
Not all Virginia tags are from Virginia.
What are you talking about? Sorry. That is absurd. I don't even, no, I'm kidding. So we've done surface level reviews, and you kind of like took the wind out of my sail a little bit just because I was going to talk about a lot of this is legislated, as the mayor stated. These are opportunities, like legislative opportunities at the state level for us to be able to collect funds out of state. And so these are challenges that we face because people get tickets here that are from Delaware, New Jersey, our closest adjacent states, and then we're unable to collect, and they continue to get more tickets here. And it's a mail process, right? We aren't allowed to mail tickets. It's a legislative issue. And so those are some of the things that we're challenged with. We've done kind of surface level reviews of where the tickets are coming from outside of the state of Maryland. We have done reviews about the collection component, how much money we're collecting based on people being ticketed, and we have those percentages, which, we can share if you're so interested. But there are
interested.
Okay, but yeah, there's a I would say a solid amount of people from out of state that are getting tickets, and we're not able to collect from them.
Yeah, that is unfortunate, and again, a interstate challenge that I know we have faced for a long time. Other questions from the board, Mr. Henry?
I'm interested in knowing more about this. You're not allowed to mail tickets because that's how I get them.
Interstate.
Oh, you're not allowed to mail tickets out of state?
It's interstate mail.
Oh, well, at the risk of sharing some information, New York State is allowed to mail tickets to us.
Yeah. It's state of Maryland. But it's
right. Right. So I guess what I'm saying is it on our legislative agenda to?
It's in our, It's in our, do you want me to? It's in our 10-year plan to do that. Also, we've had some just early conversations just about the reciprocity component and looking at best practices for other localities like DC and things like that, how they can magically mail tickets as well.
Okay. I want to get, can I please help with that? Because I want to go talk to some legislators and hear them explain why we shouldn't mail tickets to people out of state. Like, what's the downside for us? That's a weird one. Okay. But the question I wanted to ask about the city is, as part of your ongoing analysis of where you should be trying to expand the program, how is that connected to your, what I hope is an also ongoing analysis of what should be the speed limit on different city streets? Because I was just noticing the other day that there is a road that is not in my old council district that has 2 lanes of traffic, north and south, and a parking lane on each side, and a bike lane. And the houses are set far back, and the commercial set far back, and the speed limit is 25 miles an hour. But York Road, in my old council district, is just 2 lanes each way, one of which periodically becomes a parking lane, and it's 30 miles an hour. And I'm not sure what that feels like there's an inequity there. And I don't know if it's a coincidence that the road that is bigger and has easier traffic flow also has 2 speed cameras in a 6-block stretch, and York Road doesn't.
I'm so happy you asked this.
Thank you. We're public servants. We're here to help.
You're here to serve the public. So different roads, different street typology, right? And oftentimes different speed limits. So if you look at, it's called the MUTCD, and it basically provides recommendations on, depending on the street typology. If you have like a highway style street, if you have a thoroughfare where it's moving X amount of thousands of cars per day, if you have peak hour car movement where it's thousands of cars during peak hours, like so in the morning, in the evening. And so that is a way that you can gauge the speed limits on the street. So it could vary per neighborhood. So it could be 25 miles per hour, it could be 30 in smaller streets where it's single lane. I'll give you an example. Where I live, my street is a single lane street. It finally got turned to be a one-way street, but it was a 2-lane, single lane street for a long time, and it is 25 miles an hour. No one should be traveling at 25 miles an hour down a single lane street, but these are old streets, old typographies of how streets used to be designed, right? So we're
People used to go faster on them?
50. I almost got hit about 4 times. That's before I worked here, but I still almost get hit because they still come up the wrong way. That is that's I'm speaking reality, but all that aside, point being is we're visiting the street typographies, and we're doing that through the Vision Zero network plan, right? So we're taking a look at all the streets within the city and how we can find either a net speed that best suits certain areas within the city, and that may be 25 in certain type areas within the city, and that could be the speed limit for this type of street within the city, and that be it. A lot of cities have successfully done that, where it's 25 miles per hour or in certain sections or parts of the city on certain thoroughfares. And then if you have larger streets, wider streets where you're moving a lot more cars, 4 lanes, et cetera, it might be 30 or 35. So we're taking a look at that through our Vision Zero network plan, which we're really just hunkering down into right now. But we'll have a lot more information and data to move forward with, taking a look at how our streets are laid out, speed limits on the street, and how we can have cars move more safely, but more importantly, have people be able to move more safely through the streets as well.
Thank you, Madam Director. Mr. Garbark, if we could be a little bit expeditious, just because
Certainly.
a couple of commitments.
Of course. I just really wanted to say quickly that since COVID, at least from my perspective, and I'm sure it's the same, speeding and erratic driving has been an epidemic. I mean, it's off the chart. And speaking from an agency as well as you, or fire chief was here, the men and women who work in the road each day, this is probably the number one threat is traffic safety. They are literally inches from vehicles that are, to your point, going 50 miles an hour in a 25-mile-an-hour zone.
Yeah.
You add to that the issue of school children crossing the street. I think the I-83 program has shown what an exceptional job this can do in changing behavior. It is a completely different experience. Our workers have said that. They very much appreciate that. So I think, just on the record, I think this is about really changing culture, changing behavior, to really slow everyone down and make people better drivers and better users of the roadway.
All right.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
There are 2 seconds. Hearing those 2 seconds, all those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. This item is approved. The next item is a walk-on item that requests to approve amendment number 4 to the Memorandum of Understanding with Cities for Financial Empowerment Fund. Period of agreement is 1-15-2023 to 5-1-2026. On behalf of the Mayor's Office, we have CAO Leach. CAO Leach, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you so much. Good to see you all. So the request that you have before you is to extend the term of a grant agreement that we have with the Cities for Financial Empowerment Fund. This grant would allow the city to do an evaluation of the financial resiliency of our residents and to come up with recommendations on how to strengthen the financial resilience for our residents. Some of the other cities that are included in the fund, so there are about 15 or 20 other cities that also have received grants from this fund, and they've done things like implement financial empowerment centers, for example, or children's savings accounts, different strategies and interventions really to strengthen the financial resiliency of their cities and the populations within their cities. And so we'll get to do a study. There's going to be some deep community engagement, and then we'll come out with some recommendations, and then from there we will determine what interventions we want to put in place to strengthen the financial resiliency of our residents.
Thank you, Madam CA. Questions from the board? Hearing and seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Yep.
All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. This item is approved. I am going to go back, and apologies to the board, to SB 25-13069. I am going to abstain on this item as there was a discrepancy between what the vendor said and one of my colleagues, and this is an ongoing conversation that is happening between the council and the colleagues. So I'm going to ask for a separate motion, Madam Clerk, to vote on this item. This is SB 25-13069.
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. And please note, I abstain. Thank you, Madam Clerk. As there is no more business before the board, we will now adjourn this meeting. The next regular meeting of the BOE will occur on Wednesday, December 17th, 2025 at 9 a.m. I thank everyone for participating and tuning in.
There we go. Okay. Apologies, folks, for getting started just a few minutes late. We have 4 addenda today and 2 bid openings, so we will dive right in. Welcome to the Board of Estimates bid opening for December 3rd, 2025. We have the following addenda to note for the public and bidding community. The Department of Public Works, SC 982RR, Eastern Avenue Pumping Station Rehabilitation. This item was due today, but its new opening date will now be December 17th, 2025. For the Department of Public Works, 1413RR, Lake Montebello and Montebello Washwater Lake Dredging. This due date was 12/3/2025, and it will now be opened on 12/3/2025. 17, 2025. Recreation and Parks, RP 24818R, Cab Callaway Legends Park. This was due today, but it will now be opened on 12/17, 2025. And Recreation and Parks, RP 22808, Leakin Park Athletic Field Improvements. This bid was previously due today, but will now be opened on January 7th, 2026. And up first, we have a bid for the Bureau of Procurement. This is RFQ 000742 regarding, this is a rebid. Is that how they characterized it? Rebid? A rebid for unclean brass water meter disposal. And up first, we have, oh, and let me explain. This is unusual, and that we don't have an itemized bid and we don't have a total to share. We will be sharing the bidder's name and a quote factor, which is a percentage that the bidder has provided in response to this bid. So up first.
All right, good morning, Madam Clerk. Up first, we have we have two bids for this, received for this solicitation. The first is from CSC Auto Salvage and Dismantling Incorporated.
Hang on just a second, I got a typo here. Okay, got it.
And
we have,
I'm trying to find you a duplicate.
Do we have a flash drive?
I have a flash drive. I'm just trying to locate the duplicate.
Okay.
This is part 2 or 2. This is part 1 or 2. All right. Here's a duplicate.
Thank you.
And
do you know what page we're looking for?
And we're looking for page B5.
B5.
And the bid quote factor on page B5 is 55.8%.
55.8. I'm going to have to fix that formatting because it's looking for money. So we're just going to have to tweak the formatting for the form. Just saying that out loud for the three of us. And we have a flash drive. An original.
I don't know what bid that's a part of. We have a flash drive, original, and one duplicate.
And one dupe. And that was 55.8 was the bid quote factor. And that was for CSC Auto Salvage and Dismantling, Inc.
Yes.
55.8 quote factor. And
Okay.
here is the copy.
Part 1 of 2, 1 of 2. It looks like, sorry, can you correct it? I have 2 duplicates and 1 flash
For
drive.
CSC?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, and the second bid is from Remac USA Incorporated.
Okay.
And I have 1 original, 2 duplicates, and 1 flash drive.
Okay. Oh, thanks.
And the bid quote factor is 25%.
Okay, that bidder was Remac USA Inc., and the quote factor was 25%. And here's the duplicate. Pardon me. And that was our final of two bidders for RFQ 000742, a rebid for unclean brass water meters disposal. Up next for the Bureau of Procurement, we have RFQ 000768. This is for snow removal services. and we have quite a few bids to open on this one. This is an itemized bid, so we will not be sharing totals. We will only be sharing I think it's an itemized bid, but we won't be sharing totals. We will be sharing the names of the responders to the bid.
Okie dokie.
Do you see an itemized? Or should I just leave that blank?
Give me a moment.
I'm just trying to figure out if we should
It is-
characterize it as
It
itemized.
is itemized.
Should we characterize?
I could
you all can't s-
categorize it as unitemized,
As itemized.
as itemized. That would be the most
Okay.
accurate way to describe it.
And I'm looking at Michelle from procurement in the audience, for those who can't figure out who else I'm looking at. And she is nodding yes. We will characterize this as an itemized bid, which means we'll be reading the names of the bidders, but we don't have a total bid price to share, and the agency will review all of the responses.
That reminds me, a note to Charm TV, we should get spotlight cameras for the audience.
That would be fun.
I think that would be funny. The audience is nodding along. Okay, the first one is from Harford Tree Experts in Landscaping Incorporated.
Okay.
I have an original, I have a flash drive, and I have 2 duplicates.
Okay. And this is from Harford Tree Experts and Landscaping, Inc. And I'm going to give these back to you, Casey, so you can keep them moving that way. Thanks.
Okay, the next one is from Yatsar Dynasty LLC.
Okay.
I have a original, I have a flash drive, and I have 2 duplicates.
Okay. And that is Yatsar Dynasty LLC.
All right, the next is from Best Serve Incorporated.
Okay.
Best Serve is spelled as it usually is, but without an E at the end.
Got it.
I have an original. And I have 2 duplicates. I don't have a flash drive.
Okay. So that is, the bidder in this instance is Best Serve, BESTSERV, Best Serve. Thank you.
Next up, we have a bid from Yibo Landscaping LLC, YIBO Landscaping LLC. I have 1 original, and I have 2 duplicates.
No flash drive.
No flash drive.
Okay, that bidder is Yibo Landscaping LLC. Thank you. And for folks trying to follow this, I'm going to read through the whole list again at the end. Don't worry. Up next?
Next is Manuel Landscaping Incorporated. I have 1 original. I have a flash drive. And I do not have a duplicate.
No duplicates.
No duplicate, just 1 original, 1 flash drive.
Okay. Got it. And that bidder is Manuel Landscaping Incorporated.
Yeah.
Affirmative, sorry.
A
I wasn't on
note
the front
to the
page.
public, when we don't receive a duplicate, it means that when bidders come to review bids, there isn't one listed. So the original will go to the agency and there will be no public copy for review.
Good note. I don't see our voices coming up on the WebEx.
I think Randy would
I
run
won't
in
worry
here
about that.
if we.
Okay. Yeah, I think, because I was looking to see if you could actually be heard, because you weren't right at the mic, but we'll
Oh, hey.
repeat that again for
cool.
folks at the end also.
All right, the next one is from LG Construction Incorporated.
Okay.
I have an original. I have a flash drive, and I have 2 duplicates. And that's all I
And I'll
got. for you.
confirm the bidder name is LG Construction, Inc.
Okay, the next one is from AB Trucking and Contracting LLC. I have an original, I have a flash drive, and I have 2 clearly marked duplicates.
That was AB Trucking and Contracting LLC. Okay.
All right, the next one is from Waynetta Mitchell, DBA Carroll Concrete Construction Company.
Okay.
I have an original, I have a flash drive. And I have a duplicate,
One duplicate.
1 duplicate.
Okay.
Mm,
Maybe not.
oh, okay, yeah, sorry.
One duplicate.
Let me just.
Okay, that bidder is Waynetta Mitchell, doing business as Carroll Concrete Construction Company. Sorry, the pages were disturbing my OCD. It is. Thank you.
All right, next up, we have a bid from R&D Hauling LLC. One bid, no flash drive and no duplicates, so.
One original, no flash drive, no copies. Okay, that bidder is R&D Hauling LLC.
Okay. Next up, we've received a bid from G&W Trucking Corporation.
Say more. I don't have that name. It is possible a person's name was on the outside of this envelope, but not the
Okay.
company name.
Yeah, that's a person's name, but the company name is.
Is there a person's name, Eric Gilliam?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is G&W Trucking
G-
Corporation.
And W, I'm sorry, say again.
Trucking
Trucking
Corporation.
Corporation.
And we have received one original
Uh-huh.
and one duplicate.
One copy and no flash drive.
No flash drive. I want to make a note that a lot of these are not clearly, some of these bids have not, there are 2 copies, but they're not clearly marked duplicate, so we should just make sure whenever we put something out, It only says duplicate. I think that will apply to a few of these. We can still accept it, but there are a lot of copies that are not clearly marked.
So we're choosing what the original is in some instances, and the rest will be treated as copies.
No, if it's not clearly marked as a duplicate, we will not display it for public review.
Okay, so in which instance do we have multiple originals then?
We have, I need to go back. This one, definitely. We have two originals for
So G and W is
G&W.
really treated as two originals because there isn't a clearly marked copy.
Yes.
Okay, and there's another one like that?
Let me go back through.
Yeah, let me just I want to make that it accurate on the sheet, so we know what we can or can't share when people come in to view the bids. Thank you. And this is for GW Trucking Corporation. And we are going to treat both of these. I'm going to attach this insurance certificate also. We're going to treat both of these as originals because we don't have a clear marked copy. G&W.
Okay. I'm going to go back through all of them and note which ones need to be revised.
Okay.
All right, for Hartford Tree Experts, we didn't mark off that there's any duplicates, so there's only an original, correct?
On Hartford Tree Experts, I have one original, 2 copies.
Oh, this is it, sorry. Not on my game today. We have 3 originals for Hartford Tree. Because they are not clearly
Because there's
marked
no
duplicate.
clearly marked duplicates. Okay. Shall I say why this is important? It is important because companies fuss at us if we share a bid that has potentially proprietary information in it. And that is why procurement and other agencies will ask bidders to provide clearly marked originals and copies, because presumably the original has everything we need to know, and the copies can be shared with the public because it is our obligation, if a copy is provided, to share that copy with the public should they want to review it. When we don't get clearly marked copies, we are trying to make it now a very consistent practice that we note that on our bid sheets, and that we do not share anything that isn't clearly marked a copy. So if anyone watching has questions about that, you can call the clerk's office, and you will get me, and we can talk through that a little bit more, but that is again, a practice we're trying to be very consistent about because it causes consternation from time to time.
To look at Best Serve, you should mark.
Do we have one more bid? Because
We do.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Best Serve,
Best Serve has 3 originals.
because we don't have a clearly marked
Yes.
copy. Okay, got it. Okay. I'm also going to change the formatting on the form so that we start to say, I wrote marked copies right now, but we can think of a better way we want to say that, if there is a better way, but so that's real clear.
Yiba Landscaping, please revise and mark it for 3 originals.
Okay. Okay.
I think Manuel, I want to confirm, we just marked one original.
Yeah, I think we don't have any copies. We only received an original and a flash drive.
For LG Construction, for LG Construction, please revise it to be 3 originals and 1 flash drive.
Question. When this happens, will we call and ask if we can use one of their originals?
have not in the
We're not going to do that, okay. That'll be, you guys could let us know. I'm looking now at the audience. Even the agency doesn't do that.
Yeah, and we shouldn't.
Okay. So all 3 originals will go to the agency?
Yep.
Okay, got it.
Okay, we're good for AB Trucking.
Okay.
For R&D, sorry, no, for Waynetta, DBA Carroll Concrete,
Yes.
please mark it as 2 originals, 1 flash drive.
Okay, got it.
Can you confirm for R&D, you just marked 1 original?
1 original, no copies, no flash drive.
And for GW Trucking Corporation?
2 originals, no copies, no flash drive.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, and then our last bid for RFQ 000768, Kelly's Trucking. Kelly is spelled Kelley. We have 1 original, 1 flash drive. And 1 copy.
1 copy. Yep. That was Kelly's Trucking. Okay, now I'm going to read through and I'm going to repeat the copy issue.
Excuse me. For the other unclean, these weren't marked either.
For which one?
Unclean water meters,
Oh, we'll have to,
these weren't marked original and copy, they were just.
okay, we'll have to go back and fix that in just a sec. This is, the tracking of originals and copies is mostly for our purposes, but the way it affects the public is if we don't have a clearly marked copy, we cannot make it available for anyone to see. So we're just going to keep repeating that for folks. Is that for, which one?
To go back to
Vendor name.
RFQ, it's 742.
I know.
Okay.
Vendor name.
CSC Auto Salvage and Dismantling Incorporated.
What am I changing?
You're changing it from, you're changing it to 3 originals.
3 originals because there's no clearly marked,
Yep.
and REMAC was okay. Okay, so I will repeat that so I don't confuse folks who are listening, but when you see the bid sheets from today's bids, you will see us very clearly marking the difference between originals received and marked copies And again, that is because originals can contain proprietary information. We have no way of knowing that unless a company tells us. So our practice with procurement and across our other agencies is to ask companies to provide almost always at least one original and a copy. And that copy needs to be clearly marked so we know which one we can publicly share. In instances where those copies are now not marked clearly as copies, we will not have a copy available to share with the public, and all originals will be given to the agency for review. So just to jump back to RFQ 742, we did make one change where we indicated that one of the respondents has provided 3 originals. None of those were marked as copies, so we are treating them all as originals. And that was CSC Auto Salvage and Dismantling. And back to the bid we were working on, and apologies for this, for jumping back and forth a little bit there, but I'm going to run through all of the bidders for RFQ 000768, and I will repeat again the challenge we run into when copies are not clearly marked. So we have the following bidders who responded to RFQ 000768. Snow removal services, they were Harford Tree Experts and Landscaping Incorporated, Yatsar Dynasty LLC, Best Serve, Yibo Landscaping LLC, Manuel Landscaping Incorporated, LG Construction Incorporated, AB Trucking and Contracting LLC, Waynetta Mitchell doing business as Carroll Concrete Construction Company, R&D Hauling LLC, G&W Trucking Corporation, and Kelly's Trucking. There are a number of respondents in that pool who did not provide clearly marked copies. So for folks who may ask to come in and see bids in this office, you may not be able to see all bids because we don't have clear marked copies to share in every instance. And in that case, all copies are treated as originals and will go to the agencies for review. And again, this was an itemized bid, so all the pricing related to this bid is reviewed by the agency for final determination. And that concludes our bid openings for today. Our next scheduled bid opening is for December 17th. Thank you, Michelle. For December 17th, 2025 at 12 noon. We will see you then. And the results for today's bid should be posted to our website by close of business, but often much, much earlier. So please check the city website for these written results. Thank you.